Across the region, state, and in Washington are reflecting on the life of former U.S. Congressman Bud Shuster.
The representative from Pennsylvania died today. He was 91. He was the main catalyst for the funding and construction of I-99, and without him, we may not have had many other major roads and highways in Pennsylvania, in fact, all across the country.
Our Jack McCune brings us more on Shuster's life and legacy.
If we don't take the risk to respond, the risk of annihilation of one of our cities is very real.
Congressman John Joyce says he and his wife Alice will always treasure their memories of Shuster, whose seat he now fills. When Joyce visited with Shuster Sunday, he shared his insights, the same he has throughout his time in Washington.
We had, again, a very candid conversation. I always looked to him for understanding and insight with what we were approaching, what we were facing in Washington. And he was always there with a concise and thorough assessment of how government needed to be working for people, but removing themselves from the day-to-day lives of the constituents.
And his legacy will last forever in his home county of Bedford.
I knew Bud Shuster as a friend, and he was always very healthy and took great pride in exercise, eating well, and I'm quite frankly shocked and just sad. It's the end of an era.
Many who knew Bud Shuster called him the king of the highway.
I can't think of anybody that's been more instrumental in the region with transportation than Congressman Shuster.
There wasn't a major economic development project in Bedford County that took place without him.
The Republican took on both then Speaker Republican Newt Gingrich and Democrat President Bill Clinton in the early 90s to keep more funding for future highway projects. Shuster won the battle against both of them.
He was very regimented, but I think that's what made him successful as well. He had a time slot for everything, very organized, very thoughtful, very driven.
And in 1995, he made his mark when he became chair of the House Transportation Committee. He wanted Pennsylvanians to have a better, faster way to get from State College to Bedford and beyond. Ultimately, that vision became Interstate 99.
Without the I-99 link here, our economic status would be really in deep trouble, I believe, at this point.
To this day, it remains the only highway that breaks the standard interstate numbering law because it's in between I-79 and I-80. Then Governor Bob Casey Sr. quickly nicknamed it the Bud Shuster Highway. Pennsylvania State Representative Jim Gregory gives his condolences to his family and friends and says Shuster's commitment to Pennsylvania and infrastructure projects across the nation is something I think of about every time I drive on I-99. The project was criticized by some as a pork barrel scheme, existing primarily to bring money to the district. Shuster was not without his share of other controversy. In 1996, he was investigated and sanctioned by the House for his relationship with a former staffer and lobbyist. He was also criticized for spending $12 million to build an airstrip near his home to get him from Bedford County to D.C., although he claimed he always drove instead.
I put in millions of dollars to improve Pittsburgh. You see, that's good government. But you come out here to central Pennsylvania, and you say that we shouldn't get our share. You people ought to be ashamed of yourself.
His Pennsylvania roots run deep. Born in 1932 in the Pittsburgh suburbs, Shuster lived in the Keystone State his entire life, serving as a guest professor of political science at St. Francis until his death. I'm Jack McCune for WTAJ News.